With the release of Toy Story 4 this week, and we have 21 now Pixar films to go back and read through and re-rank. Now, this is a very hard series to re-rank. In fact, a lot of the time, this actually switches out and changes up a bit for me. So this is actually going to be quite a bit of fun to kind of go through and re-rank all the Pixar films. And of course, if you guys are new here, make sure to comment down below and let me know what your ranking is. And make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And if you guys enjoy this video, because I do tons of rankings and early movie reviews. Plus, if you guys want to see movies early, go check out Sandwich on Films. We're starting at number 21. It is Cars 2. Now, Cars 2, for me, I actually am on the par of saying that this is not a bad film. I think it's a fine film. I just think it kind of missed the aspect of what the first Cars established within this world. It's cool, it's fun, and Mater's a little bit annoying throughout the whole series, but I do think the spy in titles in here is fun. I think the spy-ness of the Cars franchise is cool. It just lacks the special and uniqueness that a lot of the other Pixar films tend to have. Brings me to my number 20, and that is Cars 3. Now, Cars 3 on repeat, I just don't care for the film. I think it's good. I think it's well made, and the animation in it is superb. It's a well-made Cars film, but for me, for some reason, it just, again, kind of falls in that same category with Cars 2. It's just not unique. It's not special like a lot of these other Pixar films have. It has that great message that Pixar usually puts into this, but again, it's just not for me. Brings me to my number 19, and my number 19 is Brave. Now, actually, the first time I saw Brave, I really liked it, and then kind of overthinking, I'm like, oh, yeah, it was fine. I just rewatched Brave and actually found a lot more to like about it. I think this is one of the most beautifully animated films, and the way that it's kind of just, it doesn't feel like Pixar, it definitely feels like more like a Disney animated film, but that's not a bad thing by any means. It definitely doesn't blow anyone away out of the water, but I think Brave has a lot of fun to it, and a lot of the world that it's kind of built into with this magicalness, and the bear whole symbolization, the way that the bear story tells with a mother and daughter story, I personally really appreciate. Merida as a character is actually a very strong character that I personally really like. Brings me to my number 18, and then my number 18 is Finding Dory. I think Finding Dory is a little bit overrated. I think it's a very well-made film again. I don't think Pixar has made a horrible film, but again, even though it's cute and it's fun and it's definitely a funny adventure, it doesn't hold any standard up to the original Finding Nemo, and in fact, any other Pixar film. It's a cool movie for sure, and I think Hank the Octopus is, personally for me, the big standout of it, but it kind of just missed a lot of dynamics that the first Finding Nemo had, and even though it is sweet and there are a lot of emotional beats to Finding Dory, I never found myself wanting to rewatch it. And then my number 17, The Good Dinosaur. Now, The Good Dinosaur is probably one of the best animated films out of all the Pixar films, and Spot the caveman is, the parallels between Spot and Arlo are just excellent, and the way that it's kind of a, instead of a man and his dog story, it's a dinosaur and his human story. I really like that all entails, but for me, the thing with The Good Dinosaur is it's a movie I don't care to rewatch. It is beautifully animated, it has a decent story, but for some reason, this is a movie that just never gravitated to me to say, hey, you should rewatch this 24/7 like a lot of the other Pixar films make me want to rewatch. For kids, The Good Dinosaur is a good movie, and for adults, it's a fine movie. Which brings me to my number 16. My number 16 is Cars. Now, I think the first Cars is the best Cars film. I think Lightning McQueen and his story of being kind of this selfish little mean guy. I'm trying not to curse in this video since some kids might watch this, but the thing with Cars is it's just a good movie. Like, it has good elements to it. There's a lot of nice Easter eggs to it, and I like the world of Radiator Springs. In fact, when I go to Disneyland, that is like my favorite park to go to, not just because it has one of the best rides, but it's just a very unique world, and the fact of all Cars and the way that it's all living in, it's a unique story for all entails, but it's one of those films that I haven't rewatched in forever except for these re-ranking videos. Which brings me to my number 15, and my number 15 is Bug's Life. Now, I'm going to say this, I've just never been the biggest fan of Bug's Life. Even as a kid, I didn't really care to rewatch it. It's a funny movie, and I think it's actually really clever when it comes down to it. Actually, 15 and up, I would say I really like to really love a lot of these films. And Bug's Life itself, I acknowledge that it is a good film. I acknowledge that it's a movie that I think is super clever in itself. It's just not a movie that I tend to rewatch all the time. Not a film that really gravitates me. I know personally for my sister, she absolutely loves this film, but for me, I just like it. Coming in at number 14, I think a lot of you guys might kill me for this one. It's Up. I think Up has one of the best opening 10 minutes of any film that I've ever seen. The thing about Up, though, after the first 10 minutes, it just becomes a fun adventure movie. There's not that much emotional tip towards the end of it, and even though it is still emotional and it is having a little bit of fun to it, I don't know why. Up's one of those films that I don't gravitate to go rewatch. It's not a film that I really think's a lot of fun. It kind of becomes a little bit kiddie towards the end. Doug is funny, Kevin's funny, Russell's great. I love all the characters that entails into Up, and it certainly is a very fun Pixar film. And that first 10 minutes is one of the best. That could have just been a short in its own and really blew people away. But I think Up is a fun idea that is a really good adventure film and probably one of the best adventure films within the Pixar lineup. But for me, Up has never stuck around. And coming in number 13 is Incredibles 2. Now, actually, when Incredibles 2 first came out, this was really high up on my list. After some rewatches, it did fall down a little bit for me. The predictability of the villain kind of really just soured me a bit. And I get it, this film is for kids, so me complaining about that's a little bit dumb. But still, I think Incredibles 2 is a very well-made film that I absolutely enjoy. I think the score is incredible, and the dynamics that they took with Elastigirl in this one is to another level. I really hope we get at least one more Incredibles to finish out and kind of make it one of the better trilogies in the Pixar franchise. And coming in number 12 is, I personally think, the most underrated film in the whole Pixar lineup, and that is Monsters University. Monsters University is super clever. I love rewatching this film. Maybe it's just because I kind of just went into college a couple years ago, and maybe that's why I've been so integrated into this movie. But when I rewatch this film, I think it's so much fun. I laugh a lot. I think the bonding between Mike and Sully is great, and kind of seeing where all these monsters really started out is kind of a fun glimmer. I like these small little prequels. I will say, though, the one lack to this film is that there's like zero emotional storyline. This is totally just a college comedy, which is different for Pixar to take on. I think if they would have added a Boo segment towards the end of maybe her going to college for the first time, and then reiterating their college story, I think that would have added so many more tears to the end of this movie. And I was actually expecting that, and it never happened. But again, it's not my vision. I just think that kind of would have added a little bit more and bumped this film up a bit on my list. But Monsters University is an underrated comedy within the Pixar franchise. Which brings me to my number 11, and my number 11 is Wally. I think Wally is a perfect film till it goes into space, into that other ship with all the big people. I get the message. I get how we should be treating our planet a little bit better, and I understand all that kind of elements that Pixar is trying to put into. This is a very smart Pixar film. In fact, I don't think this film is more for kids. This is more for adults. When I look at this film in particular, I think this is more of a film for adults that kids can watch. It has cute moments, of course, with the little cockroach and Wally himself, but the love story between Eva and Wally and the silent film aspect that they took within the first 30 minutes of this film is jaw-dropping incredible, and the animation, again, is superb. I mean, I could say that really about all these Pixar films, but Wally is one of the ones that sticks out the most, and I actually hope they do another one that takes place in space eventually. And coming in number 10 is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo is a film that I used to be scared of when I was a kid, especially with that opening scene. As I've grown up, I'm not scared of it. Maybe not as much, but Finding Nemo is still an enjoyable ride. I think this film is one of, again, goes into it. It's another adventure film about a father trying to find his missing son. And for me, some of my favorite aspects of it is just the father, Marlin, learning how he has to be unprotective a little bit, and understandingly, we understand where Marlin is coming from, and that's kind of the thing that I think Pixar did so well in this film, is building up Marlin and his thoughts and his fears and why he has those fears and everything that he's lost. Again, Pixar knows how to hit those emotional crushes to families, to friends, to, in general, everyone who watches their films, and Finding Nemo is one of those first establishments. But I have to say, my favorite part about this whole film is the Tank Gang. I really like Gil, and Willem Dafoe's portrayal as Gil is excellent. Number 9 is Monsters, Inc. Now, Monsters, Inc. I think is excellent. It's funny, it's a laugh riot, but it also has that emotional beats with Sully and Boo, and that's the one thing that I think of Monsters University was missing. Monsters, Inc. I love rewatching. I love the world of Monsters, Inc. I can't wait for this Monsters at Work show that's coming to the Disney Plus streaming service, because now we're going to get more Monsters, Inc. content. But Sully and Mike are two of the best buds, I think, throughout the Pixar franchise, and their relationship, their friendship that entails, and just the comedy that comes out of it is excellent. And just seriously, the concept of Monsters, Inc. is just really unique. Coming in at number 8, I can't believe I'm saying this is at number 8, but as a full list, the original Toy Story might be one of my favorite films, but I'm putting it at number 8. On rewatch, I think the animation is a bit dated to this, but that doesn't go anything against the script. I think the script is superb. It is one of the best scripts from that year, and in general of all time. I think there's so many messages. In fact, if I could, I would place all the Toy Stories at number 1, because those personally are my favorite. Spoiler alert for the rest of this ranking, but I think Toy Story is something that has always stuck out to me. It's a nostalgic thing for me, and Buzz and Woody are seriously two of my favorite characters that have ever graced the screen of cinema. Personally, without Toy Story, I probably wouldn't be into film as much as I am. Coming in at number 7 is Coco. I think Coco is almost a masterpiece. This film I did not expect anything from until I went and saw it in the theaters, and I was utterly blown away by it. This is one of the best animated films, animated art design of everything that's ever been created. It's a musical, which I was not expecting. I'm not the biggest musical fan, but it really blew me away in all the music. I still actually listen to some of the music. Again, Coco is just something special. There's not a lot to say about it. It's a hard film to market because it's about the Day of the Dead, but Pixar pulled it off into such levels that I bawled my eyes out at the end, and I love rewatching Coco. Coming in at number 6 is Toy Story 3, which is surprising because Toy Story 3 used to be one of my favorite Toy Story films, and after rewatching it, after doing a whole rewatch leading up to Toy Story 4, the film fell a bit for me. It's still my third favorite Toy Story film, spoiler alert again for this ranking list, but when looking at all the other Pixar films, I think Toy Story 3, while super clever on being a prison break film, and I think that's one of the best aspects of it, I absolutely love the villain of Lotso. Toy Story 3 for me, I don't have any issues with. It's just a little bit too dark, and it's a little bit too emotionally tolling on me for when I rewatch it. So it's a little bit tough on that aspect and that part in its whole levels that I can truly say, but I really think Toy Story 3 is incredible, and really, I know there's some people who have never seen the film, go check it out. Comes me to my number 5. My number 5 is The Incredibles. This is one of the most rewatchable films of all time. I think The Incredibles has one of the top 10 scores of all time. The character developments, the midlife crisisness of Miss Bob Parr is great in its own levels, and just in general, everything that Brad Bird decided to infuse into this film. This is truly a film that is made for adults, and kids can enjoy, but definitely adults will get more out of The Incredibles. It has incredible action, it has incredible art design, it has incredible animation, it has incredible voice casting. It's incredible. What can I say? Coming in at number 4, again, is another underrated Pixar film. It's Ratatouille. Ratatouille is such a clever, unique film that gets me hungry every time I watch it. But it goes from the art design to the story and the uniqueness of it, of a rat wanting to be a chef and controlling a human by his hair, and their relationship that they kind of go back with one and forth. The fact that he doesn't understand the rat, and the two different subplots that they have with the human storyline and the rat storyline is all unique in itself. And I know I say unique a lot in this Pixar ranking, but it makes sense to say it because that's really what Pixar has been known for. And the same thing with Ratatouille is that there are a lot of messages to it with family, with friends, with a father and son story, and kind of just wanting that acceptance from your father. And coming in at number 3, though, is going to be Inside Out. I love Inside Out. I've cried so much throughout this film. Everything with Bing Bong just makes me tear up. But this is one of the most imaginative Pixar films to date. It's my third favorite for a reason. It's a movie that I saw like 4 times in that same weekend that it came out. It's a film that blew me away to all levels, not just from the animation, but really from that imaginative level of how much the design and the art animation and everything that they put into this film, there's so much to it. The cleverness of what they do with the nightmares, with what they do with the emotions, and how each emotion really has their own personality to it, and the voice casting for each one was pitch perfect. A unique film to say the least, and I've truly never seen one like this. Coming in at number 2 is Toy Story 4. Now, the only reason it's not number 1, we'll get to it, but Toy Story 4, I think, is a masterpiece. I think almost all the Toy Story films are pretty much masterpieces. They're my favorite franchise of all time, and a lot of that is personal. That's why this list is my personal opinion, but Toy Story 4 was a film I didn't think we needed. I was excited to get another one because I love Toy Story so much, and I was just hoping that it would be another good adventure, but I wasn't ready for how amazing this adventure was, how emotional it's almost as emotional as Toy Story 3, and I think that's in the best kind of way that I can pose it. I think Toy Story 4 is a perfect film. I truly do. There's not a lot more that I can say about it. It's funny. It's probably the funniest out of all the Toy Story films. The new characters, which I was actually really nervous about, all of them really work out to be. Bunny and Ducky's hilarious. Forky's hilarious. You got Keanu Reeves' new character, Duke Kaboom's hilarious. And even the character that I really was kind of iffy on going in, Gabby Gabby, because the villains are never truly my favorite characters when it goes in, but I walked out saying Gabby Gabby was a unique antagonist to have in Toy Story 4 and a different perspective on one that I didn't expect to have on one. It's kind of scary at times, and Toy Story 4 in general just knows its audience. It knows what it's going for. The animation, it's the best that Pixar has ever done to date, and I think as a directorial debut, Josh Cooley knocked it out of the park. Which brings me to my number 1, and my number 1 is Toy Story 2. This is the first film I ever saw in theaters. There's a lot of nostalgia to it, and actually going back and rewatching this film after not seeing it for a couple of years, Toy Story 2 bumped its way up so high on my list. This is one of the best action adventure films, I think, to any level any sort of filmmaking design. I think the two subplots that it has with Woody, Jesse, Stinky Pete, and Bullseye, and then going to the same parallel of Buzz, Ham, Mr. Potato Head, Rex, and Slinky Dog all going out to save Woody. It's a nice parallel, and the two different storylines that we enter into this whole story is kind of fun and energetic to itself. It's something that's different, and I think Pixar needs more adventure films like this, and at the time it was actually the most grand film that they were making. I also think the bloopers at the end are hilarious add-on to the Toy Story film, and do not forget when you see Toy Story 4 this weekend, do not forget to stay after the credits because they're pretty funny. But guys, that's my re-ranking of the whole Pixar list. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this on all 21 films. What is your ranking? If you guys don't want to do a ranking, what's your top 10? Let's talk about it down below in the comments, guys, and of course make sure to go check out my review of Toy Story 4 for more information of why I fell in love with that film. Comment down below and let me know your guys' thoughts. Hit that like and subscribe button. Check out Sandwich on Films. I'll make sure to see you guys soon. But always, until next time, you got a friend in me.